We're going to go ahead and I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the minutes from the March 21st general meeting. Can I get a motion to accept? Motion made by Ann. Can I get a second? Seconded by Glenn. All in favor? All right. So I'm going to start this morning. We're going to talk a little bit about an award that we have to present today. Many of you know that at the beginning of each year, LCIA will honor our active members of our community, one or two, with a Peter J. Compagno Citizenship Award. We did it in early February when we had our first award ceremony. Peter J. Compagno was a first-generation Italian-American and remarkably active member of the LCIA. He was a leader in many civic initiatives and was involved with several organizations with St. Dominic. For the past few years, we have given this award as an honor to those who have shown awesome examples and provided great leadership in the Lakeview community. Last month, a great friend to the Lakeview community, Paul May, passed away. For those of you who did not know Paul May, Paul worked for the city of New Orleans for 41 years, with his last position serving as the Director of Safety and Permits. He was also a member of the Marine Corps, had a degree from Loyola University in law, and attended the NOPD Academy as a reserve police sergeant for many years. Even after retiring from City Hall, Paul continued to volunteer his efforts in assisting with zoning matters and providing general counsel to many of the members of this LCIA board. Paul May was truly the epitome of a community volunteer. Upon hearing of his passing, I immediately went through our archives to see if we had possibly given him this award in the past. Great sadness, I realized we had not. Although oftentimes great volunteers do go unnoticed and sometimes uncelebrated. In fact, the very definition of a volunteer is someone who freely gives their time and efforts towards a cause with no expectation of compensation. Paul May definitely is the person that deserves this award. It's sad that we didn't give it to him while he was here. I have asked his family to come today, so if everybody would stand up. If Paul is anything like I am, I'm guessing that he would say, even after everything that Paul did accomplish, I would guess if you asked him, his greatest achievement probably is standing up over there. So I'd like to ask the family to come up to the front right here so I can present you with the Peter J. Compagno Award on behalf of Paul May. So I'll read to you what it says. The Peter J. Compagno Outstanding Service Award presented to the family of Paul May in appreciation for his outstanding dedication and service to the Lakeview community, presented today by the Lakeview Civic Improvement Association.
You step forward. One, two, three. Thank you.
We truly do appreciate everything that Paul's done for our community. And I'm happy to say that at least a few of the family members are still in Lakeview, correct? So his tradition will definitely hold on. And I'll be calling Andy May on Monday to see what he wants to do for LCIA. All right, moving along. We're going to go ahead and do our recognition and comments by our attending public officials. Senator Ed Murray, come up.
Good morning. You all know that we are in session now. We started a little over a month ago. We have a little less than a month to go in session. It ends on June 11th. I guess the biggest thing that we're charged to do this session is to pass a balanced budget. We still are a long way away from doing that. Some big items that are not funded currently that impact our area. There's still about a $90 million gap from what the Children's Hospital says it needs to operate and manage the new public hospital. It should open, it's scheduled to open sometime next week. It's been delayed until August. Some people say it's because the children wants to wait to make sure how much money it has and see what programs it will have running in there. children says it's because they got to train staff to know the building and those kind of things and operate the equipment. But that is a really big problem for us to try to face because that hospital, if we don't plug that hole, children will decide one of two things. One would be just to walk away from operating the hospital, period. That's what they're able to do under the contract they signed with the LSU. The second thing, the option is to just decrease the amount of services they will provide in the hospital. Decreasing the number of services is really important because the hospital is important to the LSU Medical School and its students and its residents. Being able to get the number of hours and to train, so that it could cost us some of those doctors that may decide to leave. That would be a really negative thing because most of the doctors that train at LSU decide to stay here in our state in this area. So it would hurt us going forward in being able to have doctors to replenish the number of doctors in our area. So I really hope that we're able to fix that problem, to get children's in the LSU and the state to come to an agreement on the actual amount it takes to run the hospital. The other things that really are a big problem there is that the House has passed, but it says there's some taxes that they say will make higher education whole. I don't necessarily think that they really did it because most of those votes did not have 7 votes, so I think that's a real problem. But I think that the law says, and the Constitution is pretty clear that it takes 7 votes to do that. So those bills are now on the Senate side. We'll have to figure something out because if we don't do something, the higher education would really be hit real bad. And for our area, of course, that means Delgado, the medical school, SUNO, UNO, it's going to hurt an awful lot. So I hope we're able to fix those things. So we've got a little over 3 weeks to try to fix those areas. I really am hopeful that we can put something together to make that happen. As an aside, on the positive side, we do have some room to work with capital outlay. City Park should fare out pretty well with some projects there that will help the comeback to City Park. It really has become a great and wonderful place to enjoy time, and if you notice that the people come from all over this region, it's not just people in New Orleans, they come from all over to use City Park. It's a really wonderful place. So that will happen. And I'm also told that with respect to the lakefront areas, the non-flood asset authority is still working pretty good to make sure we are able to maintain the grass and the shelters on the lakefront so that we can still have some nice things to do. So those are some things that are happening on the state side, and if I can answer any questions, I'll be sitting on the side if you want to ask me. Thank you all.
I'm going to ask Councilperson Susan Guidry to come up, please.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you. I want to first start off by thanking everyone who is involved with putting on or who attended the Lakeview Shepherd Center Gala last month. It was an incredible success. It was a beautiful evening, and a lot of people attended, and it raised a lot of funds for the Lakeview Shepherd Center. So thank you for that. This past Thursday, you may have heard, we voted in the new comprehensive zoning ordinance. That was an 11-hour meeting on Thursday because there were a lot of amendments that were put in right at the last moment, which wasn't the best thing. But the comprehensive zoning ordinance, as it was voted in, is for the most part, 99% of it is everything that everyone planned for all these years. All the planning meetings that you attended, you know, we had passed the master plan. That was the general guidelines for how the city would develop in the future. The comprehensive zoning ordinance is the nuts and bolts about how your property is zoned, what you can do with your property, if you're a business, how many off-street parking spaces you need to have, that type of thing. The City Planning Commission staff looked at trends across the country. One of those trends is that people are driving less, walking more, using alternate forms of transportation more. And so this new CZO has fewer requirements for parking. And that's painful for me as a council member because we're the one who gets the complaints when a new development is going in. next to residences, and residents don't feel like there's enough parking. But that is a trend, and there was nothing one little council person could do about it because everyone was in favor of it. Some of the other things that are trends is to get away from having to, developers or businesses having to go to the council all the time, city planning commission, for variances and for conditional uses. So now if a standard restaurant is permitted in a certain zoning district, and someone wants to open a standard restaurant in that zoning district, then they will have alcohol by right. They won't need a conditional use, and they will be able to have live music. Now, there are limits on the live music, limits on the hours, that type of thing, but it gives businesses more security, knowing what they're getting into when they're buying a property or leasing a property. And again, it is the trend that it's going to. The trend is also mixed use, so we have now a lot more zoning that's mixed use, where you might have retail on the bottom floor and apartments upstairs. So it should be interesting to see the changes in our city's development with the new comprehensive zoning ordinance. Now, as it affects Lakeview, not much change at all. You don't have the little corner stores that we made changes to. You don't have, you did your own zoning back in 2007. I participated in that because my neighborhood was in the same planning district when we redid all the zoning in this area. And we did retain the Middle Harrison zoning that we, overlay that we put through a couple of years ago after a year and a half of negotiations between LCIA and the Middle Harrison residents. We did retain that overlay. So there's still going to be a limit of 5 restaurants, no bars, and no non-residential uses over 4,000 square feet. We have in the new CZO stormwater management requirements for the first time ever. That's very exciting because we are a sinking city and we need to do everything we can as quickly as we can to stop that problem. And so I think it's developments over 5,000 square feet. You'll have to submit a stormwater management plan, and the CZO contains numerous options to help you figure out how to do that. All right, and of course the CZO is a living document, so it can be amended in the future. So, you know, if we decide that something isn't working, we can tweak it. I was very proud to co-author with Councilmember LaToya Cantrell the smoke-free ordinance that passed and became effective on April 22nd. You know, we don't have smoking in restaurants. It made no smoking in bars and casinos, although Harris Casino is up at the state legislature trying to strike fear into everyone to get them to have an exemption. We're hoping that doesn't work. Let's see, and we have had incredible compliance. Very few complaints, and a lot of smoking people are telling us they're good with it now because they like, I mean, where else, we're a best place to have a non-smoking law, right? You can go inside the bar, hang out with your friends. When you want a cigarette, get your go-cup, walk out with your friends. Won't have to miss a drink. So anyway, it is working very well, and we've had some international visitors come in and visit with us to learn about it. People from Egypt, Cameroon, Israel, Saudi Arabia, to health officials to talk to us about it and about how we did it here. They figured if we could do it in New Orleans, they could do it where they live. It was quite amazing. Okay, also I was very proud to co-author with Councilmember Jared Brosette what people are calling the Uber ordinance. What it is an ordinance that allows transportation network companies into the city to operate in the city. That was passed on April 9th, and you know, our citizens have been telling us that they needed an alternate form of transportation other than the cabs, because the cabs too often won't take you out to Lakeview or come pick you up from Lakeview or that type of thing. So the Uber service is done with an app on your phone. You can, if you have a smartphone, you can pull up the Uber app, and you just touch it, tell it where you are, and it'll tell you how long it would be for a vehicle to get to you. And they say that they will be going everywhere, and the passengers rate the drivers. So you know, the Ubers supposedly will know whether the drivers are doing what they should be doing, which includes picking people up and dropping them off where they want to go. So that's pretty exciting. And we worked real hard on that ordinance because Uber has a bad reputation for not having enough insurance, not training their drivers, not having good background checks. So we put a lot of safeguards in place, which actually, we have the best insurance requirements, the highest insurance requirements for Uber of any jurisdiction in the country. And they first said, well, we worked with you to make the law, but now you've made it too strict and we won't come in. And we said, okay. And then they said, well, right. So they blinked, and after a week they came and filed an application, and they are now operating, and everybody who's taken them has been really impressed. Let's see. Backyard Living, I don't know if you all have visited that store yet. It's really cool, outdoor furniture and grills and all of that. So they are at West End Plaza, and they are the anchor store there. And we did a ribbon cutting on that just about a month or so ago. And the anchor tenant, Backyard Living, has asked for a conditional use to sell wine. So you can have wine displayed with the outdoor furniture, et cetera, et cetera. It's a trendy kind of thing. You know, LCIA had some concerns about that. I've checked. I've talked with other council people. We've Googled it. We've, you know, just talked around. And I've decided that I think it's a permissible thing. We're going to limit the space they can have it in. And frankly, I think a wine shop out here is a good idea. I don't think there's a lot of that around here. So they're going to be coming to us on June 4th. And I, at this time, intend to recommend to the full council that they allow them to carry the wine. Lakeview School has been purchased and is going to be demolished. I know that a lot of you wanted that to happen. That's not something I wanted to have happen. I think it's a beautiful school, and it could have made a beautiful apartment complex or condos. But these folks have listened, you know, heard the residents on that, and they are going to be building about 12 lots of single family. And they're going to be salvaging some of the architectural elements to reuse in that construction. I believe I've already announced before that the city now owns Florida Leap Park. That transaction has been complete. I'd like to thank Sarah Houston for her assistance, and I'd like to thank LCIA, because about 4 or 5 years ago we all banded together to stop the OPSB from auctioning the park off. The recent bond sale included $200,000 for improvements, and I know that you all have formed a committee to talk about what you want out there. So we're looking forward to working with you on that. The Recovery Roads Program. Lakeview, West End, and Navarre are budgeted for over $42.5 million for repair of the roads and the drainage beneath the roads. The paving-only contract for Quad 1, it's called. Construction is underway now and scheduled to be completed in August. The paving-only contract for Quad 2, currently is in bid and award phase, and its estimated construction start date is August 2015. And more projects in Lakeview, Navarre, and West End are scheduled to begin in this year and in next year. So if you want to look at your street and where it is with the work, then you can go on NOLA.gov and go to Department of Public Works and click on Recovery Roads. And go to Lakeview and then find your street. Let's see, okay, and then lastly, I'll say the Wisner Bridge construction. You know, they're going to completely redo the Wisner Bridge, and they're going to put bicycle and walking paths on either side of it. It's very exciting. That will begin in July 2015, so expect there to be a few headaches trying to get around that while it's happening, but it'll be worth it in the end. The RTA Cemeteries Hub, where the streetcar at Canal Boulevard and buses will all be offloading and onloading right at the edge of Canal Boulevard. That project is on target for a construction start of fall of 2015. So a lot of good things happening around here, guys. The alley grader that I bought for in the last budget season that we got budgeted, actually is an alley grader, a truck, and an extra crew. And that should arrive this summer. But the old alley grader is working now, so we are having some work done. If you should report alley problems to 311 and to my office, to our hero here, Enrico Sterling, who's been handling District Days constituent matters for a long time. A long time. All right. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Oh, you know, this is how I feel about Fleur de Lis. I mean, I had Rico look at this and outline it. Go back over every month we get spreadsheets like these that say where projects are. He went back over 3 years, and in 3 years, that project date had been pushed forward 3 years. Okay? So I can tell you where it is right now, but I mean, I'm just saying what it says. Construction start date, January 15th of 2016. So I would not put any credence in that. They continue to tell us that there are, they're in the last phase of reviewing the design, they realized some changes needed to be made. Do you know how long this design's been done? Has anything changed about that street? I don't know. And you know, I brought Colonel Jernigan here last, April, was it? To stand right in front of you and tell you. And he stood right in front of you and told you what I just said. What can you say? I mean, are you the engineer? Do we have an engineer who will volunteer to go see what's going on? I don't know, but that's the latest date, but I wouldn't count on it. Yes, ma'am.
This is a minor question, but I'm just curious. How does Uber work? Do they give you a price for where you're going? Do you negotiate a price, or do they have a meter?
No, it's so smooth. You get the app, you click that you accept the conditions, and that's one of the things we did with our law, was tell them that they couldn't have you, when you say I accept, waive your rights to sue them. And they have all that in their terms and conditions. But anyway, you accept the terms and conditions, which now you can safely do that. And they say, you know, how many cars there are, how many minutes it would take them to get there. And you say, okay, I'll want one, whatever, and it'll tell you the estimated price. And then you have to put in your credit card information to work this at all. So from then on, they've got your credit card information. You just get in the car, you go to the location, the guy has you sign, shows you the price, and the tip is included in the price. So you just sign and get out. It is so easy. It truly is. So
Do they have only cars or do they have buses?
that's a good question. They have a few different types of services. One is called Uber X. Uber X is a person driving their own private vehicle. It is usually a bit cheaper than a cab, but they are not vetted by the city. The Uber X drivers are vetted by Uber, and so are their vehicles. The Uber Black is a little bit more luxurious car. It's a black car of a certain type it has to be, and those drivers are permitted through the city, and their vehicles are inspected through the city. And they're usually a little more expensive than cabs. And then there's Uber SUV, which I believe is along the same line as Uber Black. And there may come to be more.
Susan, about 20 years ago, we were struggling with trying to get Florida to phase one done. I said 20 years ago when we were struggling to try to get phase one done in Florida, and it was the same type of scenario. Things we pushed, nobody knew anything. Jay Back, your predecessor, and I got together and we said, let's get everybody in one room. That would be the highway department, that would be the Department of Public Works, that would be the feds, that would be capital projects, that would be everybody that had a hand in this, including the designers, and put them all in one room and say, what do we need to do in order to get this done? He did that, and phase one down on the other side of Veterans got started. That was 20 years ago. We made a decision at that point that it would be in 3 phases. Everybody got on their high horse, everybody went out and did what they needed to do, and we got it out of the blocks. I'd like to ask you if you could try to coordinate that meeting with all the decision makers in one room and see if we can't get this thing out of the blocks like we did before.
I'd be more than happy to.
I will be there. We get the meeting.
All right, anything else? Okay, thank you all very much.
Next up, School Board Representative Sarah Usman to come up.
Good morning. It's so nice to see everybody. I want to congratulate all the teachers and parents and students on wrapping up a very successful school year. We're coming close to the end, and there will be the graduation at your all's times. It's a super important graduation coming up. It is May 29th, and the 8th graders who will be graduating were those kids who started with Katrina. So it's a super exciting and special, huge round of applause to Ms. Douglas and her amazing group of teachers and faculty and the great work that they have done. I want to also let you know that the new superintendent, was hoping to come here today to visit with you all. Unfortunately, his mom was in a car wreck, and so he has asked for a rain check, and we'll do some sort of back to school opportunity for him to come meet with all of you all and introduce himself. He is absolutely terrific. He is right here from the greater New Orleans area, was a school board member, and is a school board member actually in St. Bernard, was a superintendent in East Feliciana, and we're just incredibly excited. He led some charter schools on the West Bank and has his doctorate, Dr. Lewis, and we're absolutely thrilled to have him leading us, and now we've got a lot of work to do to get ready for all of the schools to come back to the Orleans Parish School Board. For him to do that, he is really deeply engaged in coming and meeting teachers all across the city and parents, and is seeking input. So if any of you have anything you want to share with him, his ears are open and he is ready to meet with you. Just let us know. Very hands-on. His 180-day plan, he's in the throes of doing that, is going to involve a fairly large and significant reorganization of our central office so that, as Douglas should be happy to know, we can drive more money to the school sites instead of in the central office, which I think is going to serve everyone, and get ready for the schools to be managed in more of a portfolio way, and the central office to sit more in the background, because the charters, like Hines, are leading for us in the community. So the budgeting process is going to be a little bit slower this year, but we're going to see some changes, and we're going to see more monies getting out to schools, we believe. And he has taken the schools that are directly operated by Orleans and is putting them into their own network and giving them autonomy to run on their own. So it'll be interesting to see how those changes play out. The other thing to just share with you all very quickly is those of you who drive down the bayou see the McDonough 35 building going up. We're super excited that by the end of August, McDonough 35 will move out of the building that they are in now and into this phenomenally gorgeous new building. And it will be wonderful for all of us here and on that side of the bayou to be able to see those students get the high quality building that they deserve. And so that building is set appropriately so to be completed around the time of the 10th anniversary of Katrina. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. I also will let y'all know that we've got in the works in the fall a trip to Warren Easton. You will have some LCIA members who are alum of Warren Easton and they want to go see the new building and what's going on. And so we will share with you all when we do that. If anybody else wants to join us, we'd love to have you do so. Any questions?
The streets that were ran about 35 have been destroyed because of the construction and the work that took place in the demolition of those projects came with about 35. I know there was a lawsuit that was pending to get all those streets done. There was one particular contractor that was in the middle of all that controversy. Do you happen to know if they let out a contractor or have to get ready to let out a contractor to do those streets for accessibility back to that school once it's opened up?
I'm not sure. I'll have to check. I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
I think it has been, but because I'm not sure, I'm less than 70% sure, I'm going to say I'm not sure. Okay. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Just a question about charter schools. You know, you mentioned something about coming back into Orleans Parish. I read in the Times-Picayune that several charter schools were given that option and chose not to. So what happens?
Currently, the way the policy states is the schools get the option to vote to do so. And one school of all of those that has been eligible has decided to do so. That's Martin Luther King. And so they will be coming back, and right now the Orleans Parish School Board and the administration is negotiating with King and Friends of King, their board, the terms and conditions. I think that that's going to be an indicator of hopefully future schools seeing that it's possible to come back to us, especially now that we have leadership, and that we will be restructuring the office. There's lots of questions that still remain for the schools, and I think a group of schools have been meeting with the superintendent and sharing their wishes about what they would like to see in the central office were they to choose to return. But currently that is the policy. Now there is a piece of legislation, Senator Murray, it hasn't hit the Senate side yet, but there is a piece of legislation that would mandate the schools being returned to Orleans Parish School Board, and so it may happen sooner rather than later should that legislation pass. Or it may be that we remain with the current policy of letting the schools choose. Yes, the intent, absolutely. And that's quite honestly why the superintendent is creating what he calls a portfolio district. The schools will retain their autonomy, and because they have that autonomy, their accountability for financial outcomes, their accountability for academic outcomes. So they would return to Orleans Parish School Board as charter schools, which I think Ms. Douglas and others would say, absolutely, they have to have that. And that's why so many haven't chosen yet. They want to know how the central office would reshape itself to serve their needs, let them have their autonomy, but also hold them accountable. It's a process. Ms. Douglas, do you want to add anything else?
They're under the school.
Right. There are about 14 charters currently under the school board. It is those that were taken away and put under state control that are having that option.
They're a great model.
Like tippy top model.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes. I'm being told by some that there's not enough room at times for our children in this area. Is there anything going on to address that need? The grammar school children?
Do you want to address your numbers?
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny you should ask because Ms. Douglas just asked me to check on the Gene Gordon land to see what's happening with that, if there was a chance that there was a way for us to try, I don't know where it is in the master facility plan, so my two follow-ups are to find out about Gene Gordon and find about the 35 contractor to build the roads around it. But, you want to see your numbers?
So there's a definite need to replicate and expand Hines, for sure. 10 years ago, when everything was destroyed, nobody knew what outcome would happen in Lakeview. And as we look back and look forward, we know that we definitely need to expand to accommodate what we can in our neighborhood. So it's something that, the success of the rebuilding and growth and the success of the school, we've been studying for 2 years options to replicate and expand and build another school very similar to Hines, either in an adjacent neighborhood or just very close by to take some of the seats off and have the same fabulous education. For the longest time, we've been able to accommodate the neighborhood kids coming into K, but the last 2 or 3 years, with the booming neighborhood and the children that are coming in, and with Hines being a very viable option for our neighbors, we do see a higher demand for our seats. So it's double-edged, it's difficult because, you want to have a space for everybody, but, we also can't overcrowd our building. I'm really proud that the students who are graduating this year, 27 got into Franklin out of 75. Several are going to Jesuit, Cabrini, Mount Carmel, Warren Easton, fabulous school, Noma, Noka. And so our students are leaving very prepared, and I think it's a testament to the education they've received at Hines. But it's definitely time to replicate, which is why I asked Sarah earlier to ask what's happening at the old Gene Gordon site when Audubon swings off.
And that has been a strategy to look at where are our most successful schools, Hines absolutely leading that list, and how we can replicate and expand those schools. So it will be part of the planning as we look forward. The good news for us is that we have more and more kids enrolling in our public schools. That's a great sign of confidence, and that our public schools are doing better, increasingly better year after year after year. Those that were lower, Hines has always been high and is even now higher. And we want those schools to be able to have more kids in them over time, and the superintendent's going to be working with folks to plan for that. Great, thank y'all.
Yeah, it's important to note, as is usually the case, Lakeview is leading the way even with schools going on in Hines. So again, thank you, Michelle, for all the work you did. Next up, Sergeant Renee Benjamin couldn't be here today, so Sergeant Christopher Prakashka? You can tell me 10 times, I'll probably butcher it. If you'll come on up and give his report for the LCPD.
Good morning. I'll report that Renee sent with me. He sends his apologies. He had a family matter he had to go out of town on. Year to date, overall crime in Lakeview is down 40%. I'm going to go over the statistics for April 2015 and what's going on thus far in May 2015. In April, there were 1,497 documented crimes in all of New Orleans by the police department. 152 of those crimes occurred in the 3rd District itself, and only 15 of those crimes occurred in the Lakeview area. That's less than 1% of the total crimes in the city itself. The breakdown of those are 1 residence burglary, 2 stolen vehicles, 2 shopliftings, 1 theft, and 8 vehicle burglaries. It's important to note, in all 8 of those vehicle burglaries, 8 were left unlocked. Every single one of them was unlocked. As far as the statistics for the officers for that same time in Lakeview, 471 complaints were handled. There were 286 business checks, 122 residence checks, 69 traffic stops, 60 warnings, 27 citations, 48 field interviews, 5 reports written, and 25 arrests. For May of this year versus May of last year, there is a 30% reduction in crime with 2 weeks remaining before the month ends. So far this month, there's been 1 residence burglary, 2 auto burglaries, 1 stolen vehicle, 1 shoplifting, and 2 thefts. 61% of, actually property crimes are the biggest concern. 61% of all of the property crimes involve burglarized or stolen vehicles, and in 91% of those cases, the vehicles were left unlocked. Vehicle burglaries are down 15% for the year. That number could be lowered if people lock their cars, take the valuables out. And it's also important to note, because a lot of people don't realize this, if a person enters your vehicle and takes nothing, they take nothing at all, they just go through it, we are obligated and must count that as a burglary. Because illegal entry was made, and criminal intent makes the correct classification of burglary. Not a trespassing, not criminal mischief, it's a burglary. For 2015 versus 2014, these are the year-to-date statistics. Crime is down 40% overall. So far this year, we've had 7 burglaries versus 17 in 2014, which is a 59% decrease. 33 auto burglaries versus 39, which is a 15% decrease. 7 auto thefts versus 13, which is a 46% decrease. 4 shopliftings versus 3, which is a 33% increase. 10 thefts versus 28, which is a 64% decrease. There were no homicides. There was 1 sexual assault. There is 0% change in that. There were 2 robberies versus 6 for 2014, and that is a 67% decrease. In both of those robberies, they have been cleared by arrest, meaning we've cleared those cases. There's an arrest that has been made. And with the auto burglaries, so far this year, 30 of the 33 vehicles were unlocked. For the uniform crimes for Lakeview this year, a total of 16 versus 19 for last year, which is down 16%. That's January. February, there were 9 reported versus 29 for last year, which was down 69%. March, 18 reported versus 16 to 24 for a 13% increase. April, there were 15 reported versus 31, which was a 52% decrease, and thus far in May, 7 versus 11, which is a 36% decrease. The total on that thus far is 64 total UCRs versus 106 for this time in 2014. And the year-to-date statistics for LCPD is 3,105 complaints handled, 1,696 business checks, 775 residence checks, 486 traffic stops, 428 warnings given, 154 citations issued, 444 field interviews, 500 and can't be right. It says 539 reports written. I can't imagine there were 539 reports. I'll have to see. That's probably a typo. And it says 96 arrests. And although crime has been down for the past couple of months, that doesn't mean to not be vigilant. Please remember to lock your cars. Please remember to take your valuables. I can tell you this from my experience. Usually in the lakefront areas, whenever we get a burglar, we go out there, the first thing we hear about an unlocked car is, I live in a safe area. Criminals know that you have that perception. Criminals are like anybody else that does anything else. They go where fishing is good. If I was in a fishing rodeo and I backed my boat to the tennis court, I wouldn't be too smart. So same with them. If they are looking to steal and they go somewhere where somebody doesn't have things and things that they have are locked up tight, that's not going to be very easy or profitable for them. So they go places where there are things and people are lax. So please be mindful of that. I said, just because you live in a safe neighborhood doesn't mean you can be a victim. You can be a victim anytime, anywhere. Yes.
There's going to be a new false burglar alarm ordinance brought before the city council soon, where the existing policy says after 10 alarms, no response will be made to the residents. The new policy says 3 false alarms, no response will be made to the residents.
Within a year?
Right. I mean, now, I will tell you, I'm sure there are some people that may be uncomfortable with that. Just so some people realize what goes on in the rest of the country, in Los Angeles, LAPD does not respond anymore. They've gotten to the point, unless it is a panic or a sonatrol, the Los Angeles Police Department no longer responds to alarms. But false alarms are I mean, I can tell you this, I've never seen it here in the 3rd District. When I worked uptown in the 2nd District, this was pre-Katrina because we had the manpower to do it. We had one car. Every day it was a 2-man car, 2 police officers. Their entire job, 24 hours a day, was to do nothing but respond to alarms. We actually had an alarm call because it became that overwhelming. But I mean, those are a significant drain on our resources. And in most cases, having gone on those, they are. I mean, probably 98% of the time, it is a false alarm. From the standpoint of manpower and consistent with what goes on in the rest of the country, it's it makes a lot of sense.
What is the time period for that? Is it a year?
It's going to be coming out to the city council.
It's a month.
If I may,
You only have in the streets, now we're not going to have any police either.
yeah, it is a strict policy, but not compared to a lot of other places. But it does allow 3 false alarms in a year. They'll always answer a silent alarm or panic, but if you have 3 false alarms in a year, then they're not going to answer the false alarms until the next year. And there's also a fine involved after the first one. I don't recall exactly what that is, but there's a fine involved with the second and third ones. So everybody needs to fix everything that's a little risky about their alarm system, where you sometimes have a door pop open and set it off, or your dog jumps on the couch and the motion detector says it goes off, and check with your alarm company also. Make sure that you're up to date in terms of who they call. The alarm company now has to make 2 calls to verify, try to verify that there's actually a valid alarm going off before they ask the police to go out. So anyone who has an alarm system that's monitored knows you have a list of 2 or 3 people on there, or 2 phone numbers for your alarm company to call. And so make sure those numbers are up to date and those people are ones you can rely on to answer those phones. We're going to try this out and see how it works, because otherwise those police officers are not available to actually be out proactively looking for criminals and doing their real job. Instead, they're just running around answering false alarms. Anyone who's got an alarm system that's been monitored probably knows that you've only had false alarms at your house. So we need to fix that. Thank you.
Sorry, one follow-up question.
I believe where it is that we just passed, I think we're just submitting it right now. I think it's going to be submitted at this meeting, next meeting or maybe it's submitted this past Thursday. I bet it was submitted this past Thursday. We'll probably vote on it on June 4th. and I don't know, I don't recall whether it has a, delayed effective date.
Follow-up question, so if your alarm company calls you and you cancel it, that doesn't go to the police? Doesn't-
That's right.
Okay.
That's right, and as long as they're called up at any time before they get there, they're not gonna count.
Susan,
I'm sorry, I didn't know I had any more questions.
one more question. If they're not going to respond to the alarm, what purpose does it serve for you to pay the money every month for the alarms company to monitor those alarms and make those phone calls? So that in essence going to put that decision to either pay that monthly fee as an individual, either go or no go with that fee, which means if you're not going to respond to it, why pay the monitoring fee? All right, that's one question. The second question is, these crime prevention districts like Lakeview has, is that something, if the city's not going to take and live up to their responsibility, which I think is their responsibility to do, at least the police department, but if they're not going to do that, that's going to push the responsibility back on the individuals, the community to take responsibility, maybe through their crime prevention districts. So if the city votes that they're not going to respond to them anymore, then maybe what your department needs to do is to get that word out to the crime prevention districts that we need to be a little bit more proactive, spend a little more of the people's money to respond to those alarms. Because if you're not responding to the alarms, our defenses are completely down. And that alarm system is the only defense we as individuals have. So it's a major problem that I think we need to at least come up with an alternative to, even if we have to pay for it out of our own pocket, which is what we do with the crime prevention.
We have considered the off-duty details and if and how that would work, so I'll check into that. But again, we're talking 98 to 99% of the calls are false alarms. So, we certainly want there to be good response when there is a need for it. But we're wasting way too much police resources.
Is there a district, or is this something that's spilling over, it's happening in other areas, so now we
I'm sure that are just as prone to have their alarms go off also as anywhere else in the city or in the country. And nationally, statistics are the same as they are in yes.
Actually,
Yes, it is.
is it possible for you to get with Sergeant Benjamin or whatever they wish and give us an idea of how many calls for service we're having on false alarms actually in our area? And then that way we'll kind of get an idea of how much it's affecting specifically our area. And then that's one thing. And then the second thing I'd like to address is, right before we had this recent training derailment in the States, I started getting some complaints from our neighbors about the increased speed of the trains going through Lakeview in the Hopedale neighborhood. And then when a few of those neighbors have said that they made phone calls, but no one's really acknowledging that there's a problem. What, if anything, can we do to try and address that, to get the trains to slow down going through Lakeview?
I don't know that the speed of the trains would be anything that would fall under the jurisdiction of the police department at all. I mean, because we're talking about something completely different. I mean, we're not going to go out there with a radar gun and stop the train and write a ticket to the train. So, I mean, that would probably be something that would have to be addressed through the New Orleans public health. And believe me, if somebody figures out where to get something to the New Orleans public belt about some of the trains,
Well, I'm
I would
bringing it
love
up
to know.
because you need to know about it and because Susan is
Yeah, my
standing.
office can check on that.
Okay, can you do that for us, please? Appreciate it. Thank you.
Since the city has all the statistics as to what's going on in Los Angeles and places like that, do you have any statistics as to whether there's a problem in Jefferson Parish? Same kind of problem that you just talked about, that you all
with false alarms.
yeah.
I don't have Jefferson Parish, but I'm sure they do.
Well, I mean, to me, it puts everybody at risk. We pay for extra police service, we're happy with it, we don't mind paying for it. It's been approved overwhelmingly in a number of years. And our city government is going to say, well, one of the few things it's responded to, we're going to cut that up. And I think that's tragic.
Well, I just want to say I'm one of the people that's been guilty of false alarms. When I got my first alarm system, I didn't know how to operate it. It was strange. But now I've gotten very good, is when the alarm goes off and it's false, I call the company immediately. So, you know, I don't want police going out and just checking false alarms. If somebody's sending out 10 false alarms, I'm perfectly willing to pay the price if I can't get to the phone quick enough to cancel it.
Thank you. And of course, you know, this is, as I said, probably going to vote on June 4th. So if you have strong opinions one way or the other, you have time to get in touch with other council people. You have time to come out to the meeting on Thursday, June 4th, which starts at 10 o'clock.
Susan, just one last thing. Because you're going to be our spokesperson, I think it's important that you understand where we're coming from. Years ago, we felt threatened and we didn't get the support of the city and the police that we needed. So we stepped up and we formed a crime prevention district. We've always had a strong neighborhood watch program. We have an even stronger neighborhood watch program. We were very diligent in the camera program. So a lot of people have invested in cameras. We were very diligent in making sure that we had the alarms. All of those things should not be necessary for the people in this community or city of New Orleans have to pay for. If the city was doing their job in providing the services and the number of officers on the street, then we wouldn't have to be coming out of our own pocket for those things. So the question is, now we're going to take another step, in my opinion, backwards, and we're going to do away with monitoring the alarms. When y'all are making a decision up there, the city council, where is all this going to stop? At what point is the responsibility of the people going to say, we've done as much as we can do, now we need the city to step up to the plate? I understand there's problems and there's issues. I understand we don't have enough police. But you know what? Somebody in the administration, and maybe it's everybody in the administration, need to figure out the answers to these hard problems instead of keeping saying, it's the city that will have to do this, we can't do that, people have to do this. It's not fair for us to pay more taxes every year and continue to get less service. And that's exactly what we're talking about. And I don't mean to get upset with you because you've always been a champion for our cause. But you're going to be sitting on that council when y'all are in discussion. And I'm saying this so that you are very, very clear on our position. And I think I speak for the people in this room and the people in this community. We've had enough in reaching in our own pocket and paying for things that we pay more taxes every year for. And we pay our lion's share of taxes. But we keep getting slammed every year with more property tax. And after a while, it gets old. And I've had it. I'm tired of fighting the battles every year. And every year, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. And we are going through death by 1,000 cuts. And that's just absolutely not fair. And I hope you hear what I'm saying. And I hope you take action on it. Because this would be another step backwards for this community and the city of New Orleans.
I think that in many parts of this city, people are dealing with higher property taxes. They are paying for extra police. So there are many, many parts of this city that have the same situation as is occurring here. And they're making a choice to pay for the extra police protection. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we are dealing with 5 years ago walking into City Hall and finding that previous administration had left us almost $100 million in debt. We had to furlough employees. We certainly couldn't hire employees. I think the mayor has done a pretty impressive job of bringing us out of what would have, I don't know, by most accounts become a bankruptcy. And so we are tightening about where we need to tighten it. I think that the police officers, we talk with the police officers, they will say, as this one did, that it's like chasing your tails around all day. I mean, I think that if you think about, you know, how many people people here had false alarms versus had a burglary. And yeah, you want perfection, but we don't have perfection for you. We're doing everything we can to bring the officer count up, and we're very focused on that. Meanwhile, as part of that, we have to focus on what makes a better police department, a more effective police department. And part of that is not having them run around from house to house to answer false alarms. So it's choices that have to be made. They're not always easy choices. I believe this one is a good one. And it's happening a lot of cities.
I think, Susan, I think what I think the issue here is that all of a sudden it's popped up. Nobody has ever approached us or said, can you help us out with this? We have X amount of false alarms in this area. You know, you see, you put it out to the community. It's an exchange of, you know, we're having this issue. And, I mean, I don't know of any false alarms in Lakeview. I'm sure there is. I'm sure people turn on their alarm, they walk out your house, they forget to lock your door, they don't lock their damn doors, and then the alarm goes off when the wind blows. They don't close the door open. I'm sure that was happening. But how many times it's happening, I don't know unless somebody tells me. So nobody has told us, bring this issue to the attention of the residents.
That may be true. We have discussed this in committee, public meetings, in committee in the city council for years. Stacy has been wanting to make this happen before I got into office 5 years ago. Soon after I got into office, she had me meet with her and some outside contractors who handle false alarm issues and as private companies, but that was in the beginning when we were $100,000 and $100 million in debt. So we couldn't squeeze cost of those contractors into. We've been trying to work on this for years, and you know, we're finally coming to a way of doing it that we think is cost effective. And it's true. I would never thought to work this out to the community. So we have discussed it.
Why don't we do this, since this is we're moving forward with the meeting? Why don't we table this right now? LCIA's board will get with LCPD's boards, and we'll put some discussions together and schedule a meeting. And then we can bring it back to the group at some point.
I mean, the one last thing I wanted to cover, and it's semi-relevant to this, and I think that regardless of budget holes the city is or is not in, and regardless of how many policemen we have or we don't have, something everybody in this room needs to be aware of when it comes to law enforcement. And this is the nation over. When other things and other programs' budgets get cut, I'll use mental health as an example. You have police departments throughout the nation doing things that we were absolutely never conceived and intended to do. But these things have to be done. And ultimately what happens is, you know, we're going to cut this. What do we do with it? Give it to the cops, give it to the firemen. That's what happens because we answer the phone. So, you know, everybody needs to be conscientious of that when you hear these things being addressed in national and state budgets. Because ultimately it's going to have to be addressed. It's going to get shifted to someone. So always be aware of that. You know, there's a reason that we don't do a lot of the things that we did 10 or 20 years ago with the efficiency that we did, because we're doing a whole bunch of things that we weren't intended to do, and that's not by our design. So, you know, when you see these things, be aware.
Okay, well, officer, that's one of the reasons why we have the crime prevention district, so we can have you all do what you were doing 10 years ago in this area.
And I understand that.
I'm glad you understand that. All right. Because we spend a lot of money on that.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sergeant. I think something important to take away from this, too, is we are less than 1% of the crime in all of Orleans Parish. and we are down 40% from where we were last year. So we are definitely improving every year. There's no question that what we're doing is working very well. And obviously we have a group set up to monitor these types of situations, and we'll move forward. And just another thing, I think I could figure out another way to reduce this by like another 40% if all the residents of Lakeview would sell their cars.
I would be curious to see.
All right, no, we gotta keep moving. We gotta keep moving. All right, so I'm gonna ask Laura Mellon from the Neighborhood Liaison for the Mayor's Office to come up. She's gonna talk a little bit about the DPW programs that are going on right now with the Recovery Road.
Good morning, everyone. It's hard to see. Brian asked me to come here today to give a little bit of updates on the upcoming road projects in your area. Councilmember Guidry did touch on a few of those projects, so I won't take very long. As she mentioned, currently the quadrant 1 of Lakeview, which is from West End to Orleans and from Harrison down to Kenilworth, is under construction in the paving only contract. What that means is that these are areas where no underground utility needs to be repaired, so it's just paving. Although we have found in 2 areas there were water lines that needed to be replaced, so that's the 800 block of Brooks and the 2000 block of Vicksburg. So construction is temporarily paused just on those 2 blocks, but everywhere else in this zone, construction is moving forward. And the only reason that those are paused is that we need to get with FEMA to secure funding to actually replace the water lines that we found needed to be replaced. We're doing a similar project in quadrant 2, which is from Harrison to Robert E. Lee in the same boundaries. And that's also going to be paving only, and that is set to start in August. And then in these 2 quadrants, quadrant 1 and quadrant 2, we'll go back and do the full, water lines, drainage and sewer in areas that need it. So in quad 1, that work is going to start in December of this year. And again in quad 2, which is the northern side, that work will start in 2016 in March. Okay, we also have West End. So that's on the other side of Pontchartrain Boulevard to the 17th Street Canal. And we have the full utility recovery roads project set to begin in January of 2016. We've got Lakewood to the south, and those projects, this is actually sewage and water board managed, but it is through the FEMA recovery roads money, and that'll begin in September of this year. And then in Navarre, which is on the other side of 610, we've got the full reconstruction projects to begin in December as well. So we have a lot of road work coming up in this in the next year and a half or 2 years. And you can look, if this is neighborhood-wide information, but if you want to know exactly what's happening on your block, you can go to roadwork.nola.gov. Again, that's roadwork.nola.gov. And that's a full map. You can type in your address, zoom in, you see exactly what's scheduled to happen on your block, and you can click on the little symbols, and it'll pop up and tell you when that project is set to begin, and that data is updated on a monthly basis. Do you have questions?
Yes.
Sir?
I live near the 800 Brooks where it's
yes.
stopped. It's not paused, it's stopped. The road work.
Yeah, we're waiting to identify funding.
I noticed there are no lights for anyone coming up Brooks at night who don't know where they are.
No lights, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, I can get with DPW on that. DPW is working closely with the homeowners in that area, but I can ask about lights.
Same with the 6,000 of Vicksburg, no lights.
The 2,000 Vicksburg? Where?
No, 6,000, corner of Polk.
Okay.
No lights with night drivers.
Laura, they're dealing with underground.
Yeah, what I had in my email was 2,000, the 2,000 block of Vicksburg, but that might have been. So, okay, yeah, it's the same. Those are both areas where the water line was supposed to be 3 feet below the surface, but when they actually went to dig it up, it was higher, so they have to replace the water line. So I can look at that with lights. And there's another question, ma'am?
Can you just give me a name and phone number? I've looked at my street before. I don't think it's set to be anything done. And the street is sinking in parts. I think there might be a water leak.
Okay, you can call me. My name is Laura Mellon, and my phone number is 4982, and I'll get you with the Department of Public Works. For service requests, you can also call 311 and get the case number, and then call me and I can look at the case number as well.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Maybe this is not you, it should line with Susan or somebody else. The street on Argonne, I mean, it just needs maintenance. There's cracks in the streets every block, and they get wider and wider and wider from the neglect. Just now, on the way here, I'm getting to the point where I can't even leave my house to go anywhere. Am I gonna have to go on welfare or something? Because I can't go to work. I can't get out my street.
Okay, what's the
Argonne,
cross street?
every block,
Every block.
Argonne, there is some kind of line going down the middle of the, crisscross on the street, and it's getting wider and wider. Just drive down Argonne, take both sides.
Okay, I can take a look at it and I'll get back to you. Anything else, ma'am?
I'll add about Argonne, some of the water mains are higher than the actual asphalt. So when you're driving down, you get pretty hard.
Okay. I can take a look at those things. I have one other update. This is from the Sewage and Water Board that went out last night. There is low water pressure due to sewage and water board construction today in the area between Canal and bounded by Canal, Germain, General Diaz, and Florida Boulevard. And then tomorrow, it's going to be low water pressure in the area of Canal to Louis XIV to General Diaz to Fillmore. And that'll last from 8 to 3. Okay?
And that's only because there's only two main thoroughfares through there, and that's Florida that comes through. Florida that comes through.
Is that part of Navarre? I think it's included in Navarre, but I can double check on the map. Sure. Okay.
What was that website again to check?
So that's a separate project. That's not recovery roads. I think that Navarre is covered in the recovery roads project, but there is a DPW bond project that's scheduled in the Homedale area, and that is going to start. I'll double check. And again, that website is roadwork.nola.gov. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Yeah, and something to look at too is if you do a quick numbers grab on this and you start just adding up the numbers, I mean, it's over $120 million worth of work since when they started to where we are now. So there is a lot of work that's going on. And as Laura had mentioned, it's not all under the road recovery program. There's road recovery program, there's DPW. I actually spoke with Sharon Roble yesterday about Brook Street and why it was still being held up, Brook Street. And what she explained to me was this phase 1 quad program they were doing, it was supposed to be minor repairs, and not minor to us, but minor on the grand scale to them. And the concept of doing it that way was they were trying to block these out so that they didn't have these huge projects going on at the same time. So the first phase was going to be minor street repairs, minor patches, with the understanding that if they came across something like on Brook Street where it was so bad below that it wasn't what they expected, they were going to freeze, go to Sewage and Water Board, get them involved to do their part. So that's why some of these have stalled, is because something beneath them isn't what they thought it was going to be. So the good news is the ones that are getting done, whatever's below them should be in good shape, so we shouldn't have to worry about those for a while. And when they do find something that's bad, instead of throwing a patch on it and wasting money, they are taking the time to get it done correctly. So again, I understand that it's frustrating, but it's also nice to see that the money is being spent and a good bit of it is being spent in our area. And this is a great segue for me to bring up Jeff Januzek, who's going to be our next speaker, who is with the Fix My Streets Committee. So he's going to talk a little bit today about National Pothole Day and some other projects that Fix My Street has going on. And if you pay attention to some of the work going on, it's not surprising to me that when something pops up on the news, crews are out there almost immediately, so we are getting responses.
This is confusing. I'd like to say that. This is a huge problem, obviously, and I think what we should keep in mind is that what the city's trying to do right now is spend that FEMA money. That's what Recovery Roads is. And that's only going to tackle, and I'm not the numbers guy, I'm not the smart infrastructure guy, but that's going to tackle less than 10% of what needs to be fixed across the entire parish. And in Lakeview, I don't even know what that number is. So I think the key here is this, is while the city's trying to figure this out, what Fix My Streets is trying to do, which by the way, 1 year ago, almost today, I think Robert Lubo showed up with those signs to the Lakeview Civic meeting, so Fix My Streets is officially 1 year old. Thank you all for your support. I think the important thing to take away is this, is what we're all doing, you and me, and everybody who's talking about this, is constantly reminding the city that, we're not happy and we want a long-term plan. Because this is not something that's going to be fixed in the next year or two. This is something that we want fixed over the next 10, 20 years so that our kids can enjoy no pothole streets. That was not proper English. The other thing that's going on is these smart folks, and a lot of them that are on the Fix My Streets board or on the LCIA board, they're working together with smart folks who want to volunteer to be part of Fix My Streets to come up with our own plan. And our goal is to come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan, and then hopefully sometime this year, or early next year, hand that to the city and say, here's what all these really great people have figured out. Here's this plan, hopefully you'll adopt it. But the key here is this, is let's just keep talking about this because the city is paying attention. I'll say it, but I think that a lot of this stuff that's been coming out, the Recovery Roads project, and the city's doing a good job of getting a lot of information out there, but it's because we all started to kind of congregate under this Fix My Streets umbrella, and everybody's talking about it. And it's not just in Lakeview, it's the entire parish. So it's because of you that by asking these questions over and over and over, and you want to stop asking these questions, you can't. Just keep doing it. And that brings me to this Thursday. We've named it National Pothole Day. And right after this meeting at 11:15, we're going to Louisville and Bragg, right there at the intersection, the monster volcano pothole, which is probably not even the worst in Lakeview. If you can, stop by for a few minutes at 11:15. We want to get a group picture. Because on Thursday the 21st, this Thursday, we're asking people here in New Orleans and across the country to share a picture on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram and use the hashtag National Pothole Day. And our goal is to start a national conversation about long-term street repair planning. And our goal here in New Orleans is to show the rest of the country that, hey, you know what, y'all didn't know this, you come here for Mardi Gras and having a good time, but this is the worst city in the country when it comes to street issues. So let's talk about it. It's been for many years before Katrina. It's been a terrible problem. And then hopefully somebody in San Francisco or Detroit or some other person that we didn't know about says, hey, we've got some great ideas. So we're trying to own this national conversation. So this Thursday, take a picture of your pothole, maybe 10 pictures, whatever you can, and put it on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And at the least, if you're not on social media, we're asking, because the city wants us to do this, call 311 and report those potholes. So if you can't post something on social media, or if you can post something on social media and go and call 311, the city wants your reports. And I know 311 is not the most effective, but they want us to report those potholes. So this Thursday, make sure you're reporting those potholes. So just keep asking these questions, stay fired up, stay angry. The city is listening. I think they're trying to figure it out. We're trying to work with them. I really feel like if we keep this thing moving, we can get this plan together. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
So if you're savvy, tech savvy, on Thursday, Jeff's asking everyone to take pictures of the potholes, and then we're going to tag them, what, hashtag National
Pothole Day.
National Pothole Day?
The website for all this information is nationalpotholeday.us. That's all you punch in. nationalpotholeday.us. So not .com, nationalpotholeday.us.
Or they can go, what, to Fix My Streets NOLA, it will be there as well? All right, I'm going to ask Glenn Stout to come up and give us an update on the Taste of the Lake.
And now for something completely non-controversial. How about that? Time for a brief commercial interruption to tell you about Taste at the Lake. Taste at the Lake is in its 5th year. Taste at the Lake is a fundraising fun party that's held at the Robert E. Lee parking lot up there at, you know where it is. And it's a fundraiser for our Lighting the Way project, which is the lights that we will soon be able to construct at the New Basin Canal Park, the neutral ground between West End and Pontchartrain Boulevards. And the ticket price is only $40. It's at 5:30 in the evening. It's an all-you-can-handle type event, eating and drinking, and lots of fun. A band called the Brassaholics. I don't know them, but you might. In any case, they're a very good band, I've heard, and you might have a chance to hear them if you come out on Saturday, May 30th. So it's in the evening. Tickets can be purchased online at tasteatthelake.com or at any of the Robert's grocery store, including Lakeview Grocery and the one up the street, Robert's. So I hope to see all of you there. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Ty Salvin to come up and talk about the Community Activities Committee.
Good morning. We have a couple of activities coming up around the neighborhood that I wanted to bring to your attention. So tonight at Lakeview Presbyterian Church, we have our monthly movie night. We are showing Mr. Peabody and Sherman at 7 o'clock. The doors open at 6:30. It's a little wet outside, so you may want to eat at home and just come there around 6:45 and enjoy the movie and popcorn with us. It's a lot of fun if you haven't been at it. May 30th, Saturday, May 30th, is the summer reading program library kickoff. They'll have parties at all of the libraries, and if you have not been to the Smith Library recently, go check it out. Sarah back there is doing a fantastic job of adding lots of programming from a monthly STEM activity to other fun science projects. There's a teen game night once a week. So lots of great things going on right now at the library. For June and July, we are really going to focus on just promoting the events that the library is putting out there. There's everything from like aqua band to lots of performances throughout the summer. There's also at Garden Brown Gym with Back to Basics Basketball Academy. There is a strength and development class from 4 to 6 p.m. on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. It's definitely worth checking out. August 22nd, mark your calendars for this. We're having our first health expo. It will be from 10 to 1 at Hines in the gym. It's free for attendees to go. There's a small fee for vendors. If you are interested in helping us to organize this event, we could certainly use some extra hands. You can contact me, send an email to community.activities@lakeviewcivic.org. And then upcoming things that you can look forward to would be our annual Children's Business Fair, our Family Park Day, and Holidays on Harrison. Thank you.
So Susan talked a little bit about the Fleur-de-Lis Park, and we're happy to say now that Fleur-de-Lis Park is in the city's hands, and we know that it's going to be taken care of because we're watching over it every day now. We actually started a committee that had a meeting a few weeks back, the Fleur-de-Lis Park Committee, and that committee, I'm going to bring up Trey Bevan, who's going to talk about it a little bit, what the committee's going to do, the structure of it, and what our goals are for Fleur-de-Lis Park in the future.
Good morning. As Brian said, that a couple weeks ago, LCIA created the Fleur-de-Lis Park Committee. He asked myself and Michelle Douglas to head up the committee. We had our first meeting about a month ago, April 15th. We had, over here at St. Dominic's, we had about 15, 20 people show up. Mostly the Lakeview citizens that live in the immediate area and that use the park significantly. And we just wanted to open some dialogue to see, what are some issues at the park? What would they like to see? How can we possibly address those issues? And we made some headway. We talked about some things. And then we had another little less formal meeting out at the park last week. And we had, again, about 10 or 12 people show up. And we walked through the park and looked at some some items that need to be addressed in the park. And we've kind of formulated an idea that we're going to take a dual track concerning short-term issues that can be addressed and as well as long-term issues that need to be addressed. And the basic differentiation between the two is the amount of funding that's needed for each and what we can handle on our own and what we're going to need to probably be funded from outside sources. First, the short-term issues. Brian mentioned the maintenance. You know, we've got our spies that live in the area that are following when the grass is being cut. And it's been reported that it was cut the 25th of April, 30th of April, May the 7th, and May the 14th. That's pretty good. It's supposed to be cut weekly during the summer months, and they're doing that. Another issue that we had were they have some huge, beautiful oak trees out there that may need to be addressed. We did some walkthrough. Some are a little more major issues with some trees are split, and you know, we've contacted, Mark Udo has contacted Bayou Tree Services. We're going to try to meet with them, do another walkthrough, and get maybe the extent of the issues, what can be done, what kind of funding would be done. Another thought was the trees do need some trimming. They just need some freshening, things of that nature. We've designated a date of June 13th, Saturday, June 13th, from 9 to 12 in the morning. Invite everybody to come out. We're going to do a cleanup day. Anybody that can help volunteer, has a chainsaw or a ladder, anything that we can do just to freshen up the park, trim some trees as high as we can reach. Many of you that are out at the park or anyone that's coached out their young kids, this is the time of year where a lot of the playground kids are out practicing baseball, softball, and things of that nature. When we went out there last week, they had 2 teams out there practicing, and it's been requested that maybe we can do something to set the base paths, maybe line the fields a little bit. I don't know how long it would last, but I'm going to try to contact Lakeview Playground, get some of their equipment, maybe do that same day. So once again, we invite everybody out there. Other ideas that we talked about in the short term were possibly putting out some picnic tables. We've had some contacts and are looking into, again, there's some minor funding to be done on those, but maybe a couple of picnic tables, idea of maybe getting some fill dirt in there. There's some low-lying areas and potholes and sinkholes in there. So we've had one member that's actually offered to supply the Bobcat and the workforce if we can just get the fill out there and dump there, and they do all the spread, which I think is a good start. Now let's shift over to the long-term projects. The long-term projects, basically, they definitely need some new playground equipment out there. The equipment that's out there now is have some issues with some rusting, and it needs to be replaced. Now the fortunate thing is, Councilwoman Guidry mentioned it, that the bond issue is they've allocated $200,000 for park improvements. Now, the way that system works, and we went through it with Gern and Brown, the way the system works, there's 5 stages. There's a pre-design stage, which literally is currently in the pre-design stage. And then it shifts to the design stage, bid and award stage, construction stage, and completion stage. So our focus now is to formulate maybe a long-term budget that includes, maybe repair some sidewalks that need to be repaired, replacement of the equipment, the basketball courts out there. They need, they just have the poles up. They don't have any goals on there right now. So these are some issues that we're going to look into, try to formulate a budget, and just monitor that it is moving forward into that next stage, and then the next stage, and the next stage, and hopefully get it completed. But anybody that can make it, June 13th, 9 o'clock, bring your work clothes. We'll hopefully see you then. That's it. Anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
About 3 Sundays ago, I was in my house. I live right by the park. And I was catching up on the news on TV about 1:30 in the afternoon. And I said, oh, somebody's got the radio really loud. So I looked out the back and I could hear it, and then I went out to the front and I could really hear it. And then so I walked over to the park, and there was a big crowd of people and And all these cars will pick up trucks, they were all parked in the park.
We've had that, several of the committee members have brought that
So I
up.
went up to this lady and I said, where are you from? She says, I'm from North Shore. She says, but every year the Bucktown has a picnic there. I said, oh, okay. Well, then the next day I called up 311 and I told them that and I said, do they have to have a permit or something to go in that park? And they says, yes. I said, well, did they have a permit? They said, no.
Well, that's one of the issues that we need that kind of feedback. Yes, ma'am.
I'll make a recommendation, somewhere in your planning in your budget, put dead men, around the park so that vehicles can't pull in.
Yes, that's one of the issues that we've had from several of the members. Also, that people want to play basketball at night. They do have some temporary goals up there. The kind that you know, just stand up on their own, and what they'll do is they'll drive their cars into the park and flash their lights at night once after it's dark, and play basketball at night. And we're going to try to take some kind of.
We could put that around there, also put some type of water fountain or something in the plans.
That's a great idea. Absolutely. Take a look at that.
But I object mostly to the cars. They're in the park.
We need fill.
Cars don't belong in the park. Absolutely.
Cars driving on the fill. You need fill in there.
Yeah.
And cars driving on the fill is no good. So if we keep the cars out by putting the posts, not a fence, but posts all the way around.
We'll look into that, and hopefully maybe we can fit that into the short-term goal rather than the long-term goal. Thank you.
So I'm slightly familiar with the way the city does this process for the money that's there for the bond issue, and I've talked with Susan and Enrico about it, and I've also talked with Laura Mellon, who just left. She's at the mayor's office. There's a bunch of different things, just like with the road program, there's a bunch of different things that can slow down these processes. Sometimes it's the money's not actually available. It's available, but it's not available. Then there's sometimes it's just a design effort. Somebody has to physically design it. So we are going to work with the mayor's office, we're going to work with the city council to find out, is it a funding issue? Is the funding not available yet? If it is not a funding issue and it's a design issue, and the money is slated for playground equipment, well, there are people that can design playground equipment, so a lot of times the manufacturers of the playground equipment actually design the playground. So we're going to work on that path too. So if it is a design issue, we'll find somebody who will volunteer their time to help with design, assuming the city will allow us. It's not like we're trying to design a road, so I think they probably allow us in that case. So we're going to work on that end, but I'm sure having the city owns it, I'm sure there's a private bid, a public bid process and all that. The good news is, with us involved now and the city on their radar, it's going to be a really great park. There's no question in my mind. Just like Vernon Brown, it will get done. It may not get done as quick as we'd like, but we will continue. We're talking with them as well about the arborist and figuring out, is there money to get an arborist out there? Obviously, any improvements we do, we'll have to get approval ahead of time for. So keep watching for those emails that will come out about that committee. Feel free to email any ideas you have to either me or Trey, and we'll keep moving everybody forward. All right, I got one last thing on the agenda. I'm going to ask Ray Bergeron to come up and give us a quick report on zoning.
He is coming up. Quick update. The movie night is next Saturday the 23rd. We usually have the same night as the meetings, so, but I was corrected that it's next Saturday the 23rd. Please, you can go out there today. They actually have a crawfish boil that they do to help the homeless at Lakeview Presbyterian Church. So that's going on today over there. Thanks.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The only thing I need to talk about is what's developing in Lakeview on Harrison primarily. There's, as you know, the city is booming. Our number 3 in zip code that is the highest commercial residential development in the country. As a result, the commercial development follows right behind it. Harrison Avenue is evolving as we initially conceived it to be a commercial corridor that serves the community by walking distance. That was the entire concept. And so what's new that's going on is, first of all, the old Helm Paint building next to Bergeron service station was purchased and is going to be converted into a restaurant. Of course, the backyard restaurant is across the street. It's open. Barbecue and hamburgers there. On this side, of course, the Chris Specialty Meats project is on the corner. That's about to open shortly. There are two commercial developments on the north side of Harrison that one is constructed and being filled in by new tenants. There's one under construction now next to Kaz restaurant, and let's see, and I think that's, the El Gato Negro restaurant is getting ready for an expansion. They're doing so well that they need to have additional parking, and they're going to open up the back part of the building for more dining areas. So our zoning committee is constantly dealing with these issues and new variances that are coming up, and we're looking for more members, by the way. So anybody that's interested in joining our zoning committee, please let me know. We meet once a month at the Gulf Coast Bank and 12 noon. So I'll be here for a while after the meeting, so if there's any other questions, and I'll be able to take them down at that time. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to close out the meeting. I want to thank everybody for coming today. I want to also thank the the public library who was here, the Harrison Public Library was here today. And for those of you who didn't get a chance, Muriel Matao was in the back signing and selling her Lakeview Memories book. So if you haven't got one of those, go back and take a look at her table. So right now, entertain a motion to adjourn. Ralph, second by Nancy, all in favor?